But there's been some changes in the sport that we like to talk about. And we'll talk about there's some other moves that happen and stuff, but these NFL rule changes, um, they're the committees are getting together this week here in Florida in Orlando, and they're meeting to discuss possible rule changes is what's happening. And there's some good things that come out of it, but there's also some things that are just taken away from the game. We just don't like it. We might as well put on flag football at this point and just have at it because it's getting ridiculous. So we were talking about it in the group text a little bit today, but I'm gonna put it on the screen. Sorry, Brian, you won't be able to see it, but I'm gonna put it on the screen. I'm gonna read it, and then let's discuss
Yeah.
what our thoughts are on this. So this is the hip drop rule. So last year, if you watched any NFL, there was a lot of talk about this new thing that came up, the hip drop tackle. It has never existed. That name, that tackle has existed for a long time because it's a part of the game. It's natural, but they finally put a name to it because people were getting injured during some of these plays. So they put a name to it. It's called the hip drop tackle. And now the NFL has banned the hip drop tackle. And I'll put it back up there in a minute. But if you don't know what a hip drop tackle is, usually it happens when a smaller player is trying to tackle a bigger player at a certain angle. It could be same size player, but usually they're at a certain angle, and there's no way to bring the goal in football is I'm going to get you down by any means. If you
Yeah.
got the football, I'm taking you to the ground. And so sometimes you're at an angle where you have to wrap yourself around this person, and then you bring your feet in the air. And once you do that, whatever happens at that point. You're just trying to get the person down. And unfortunately, sometimes the other player's legs get caught up underneath you or their body, and bones break, ligaments break, so on and so on. So the NFL, this is the rule they put forth. It says it is a foul if a player uses the following technique to bring a runner to the ground. So here it goes. A. Grabs the runner with both hands or wraps the runner with both arms and unweights himself by swiveling and dropping his hips and or lower body, landing and trapping the runner's legs at or below the knee. So I got my reaction to this. I know what I want to say about this, but uh, there may be some things that you guys say that I can add into my thing. So Brian, fantasy football last year, Mark Andrews went out for you because of a hip drop
Yep.
tackle.
Against the Browns,
So I
right?
know you had a certain feeling about it, but what do you think about this rule that the NFL has put in place?
I I don't know. I think it's such mixed emotions with the NFL. They're crying about player safety, but yet they want to play 18 games. So here's my question. So you get beat by the offensive player. Where do you tackle him if you're trying to tackle him from behind? Can't grab the collar. Now you can't hit check. Now you can't hit tackle him. And if you go below the legs, you can get a penalty for that. So what are you supposed to do? Just trip him?
That's a
No,
no,
that's
you
a
can't. That's a
penalty.
penalty.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Tripping.
My question was, they say the hip tackle is banned. What does that mean? They still had a penalty anyway last year, so then nothing's going to change, and they barely ever called it.
So yeah, so I was looking at it. So now they said in the little subsection of that article, it says expect more fines than flags for the first season. That they are going to use the season as a warning and start to fine players for it rather than throwing flags. But the fact that it is a penalty that a flag can be thrown on because the penalty is it's a 15-yard penalty and automatic first down. Dave, before I'm gonna go, I'm about to go head first into this thing because I'm getting amped up about it. So
Yeah.
say your piece. Say your
Let me do.
piece. Yeah.
And oh, by the way,
Get
Mark
angry.
Andrews. I said it was the Browns. It was the Bengals.
It-
That okay? So the question is this a common? Uh, are injuries common with this type of tackle? The answer is
They say,
no.
well, they say there's 20% more injuries with it. But the thing is, they don't even know what a hip drop tackle is because there were so much questions about it. So who's the statisticians that are counting this? Do they even know what it is? And there's so many.
Okay,
yeah.
so here's a statement from the NFL Players Association said last week. While the NFLPA remains committed to improvements to our game with health and safety in mind, we cannot support a rule change that causes confusion for us as players, for coaches, for officials, and especially for fans. We call on the NFL again to reconsider implementing this rule. So even the Players Association is kind of against this because they're saying this is going to, well, like you said before, it's going to cause more fines than it is penalties. And even in real time, calling it's going to be, it's going to make the game, oh God, it's just going to make games longer and more reviews. And, well, I get it. Big name, see, I think Mark Andrews got hurt last year because of this kind of a tackle. That's bad. I feel bad that it happened. But how many other guys are getting hurt from concussions and you know, breaking legs and breaking arms and all this kind of stuff that happens during the season? You can't just take out every play that, I mean, I get certain things like the horse collar tackle and grabbing guys, pulse, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, I think we're all on the same page here. The thing for me is, here we are. This is a subjective call for the referees, which there's already so much pressure on the referees. They're making a lot of mistakes. It's all over that people are saying we need more accountability for these referees. And here we are putting a call in their hands that's going to happen so fast that they're going to have to throw a flag. And then here, imagine, let's do a scenario. It's a 15-yard penalty. 5-yard penalty, sure, fine, whatever, that's whatever. But a 15-yard penalty, that's a game-changing penalty. How many games have we seen where it's the fourth quarter, 2-minute drive, and it's 4th and 11, and the team, they get a 15-yard penalty, automatic first down, and they march downfield, and they win the game. And everybody's like, well, if they didn't call that penalty, then they wouldn't be in that position, this and that. So here we are putting more pressure on the referees, which we already have so many problems with. And then this is just going to add to the whole idea that the game is scripted. Imagine if we're in an AFC Championship game with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And they get a hip drop tackle, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. It's going to feed into this idea that the NFL is scripted. And I just feel like the defense, it's getting so hard to play defense now. You can't, I'm not saying these other penalties shouldn't be penalties, but I'm saying no face mask, no horse collar. You can't hit him up high anymore. And now you can't hip drop tackle. I mean, and then they're talking about unweighting yourself. So if I hit the quarterback and I weight myself on him, that's a penalty. I have to unweight myself for the quarterback. But then if I tackle somebody in the open field, I have to unweight. If I unweight myself, then it's a penalty because I might possibly injure them. So I mean, I don't want to play in the defense. I don't want to be on the defense right now. This is crazy to me. I don't get it. But hey, yes, people get injured. I understand that. But can we admit that football is a violent sport? That grown men that work out and have big muscles and they weigh over 200 pounds, most of them, and they're flying around with pads on, and their goal is to get you to the ground.
Bro, have you ever been hip drop tackled? Have you been the victim of this kind of a tackle?
No.
Not even in playing at the rec or anything? Brian, what about you back in your playing days?
No, I can not really say that I was ever tackled.
I have one time. We were playing at the rec center, and this kid, we were doing what men do, playing tackle football at the rec center with no pads. Guess what? This little kid,
genius.
This little kid, I catch a pass. This was back in the days when I could run, bro. And I was heading to the end zone. And then all of a sudden, I feel these arms around me, and then I felt the full weight of this kid. He was half my size, swung his legs around me, and I managed to keep going. And I scored a touchdown, and it was awesome. The fact of the matter is, even doing that, this kid couldn't tackle me. Now, was it last year or a year ago? I wasn't there, but there was a group of guys playing tackle football at the rec center, and two of the guys, I understand it was a hip drop tackle. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy ends up with a brain bleed and is hurt and seeing stars for days. Went to the hospital. He's all right. He survived. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. But that was the kind of tackle.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
You know what? We did ban tackle football after that, didn't we?
We did. We no longer play tackle football. We play flag football, which is what the NFL is basically doing. But these guys get paid millions of dollars for this.
Here's my question, right? So the NFL wants to ban this hip tackle, and yet Damar Hamlin died on the field and they didn't ban anything.
Hey, yeah, you shouldn't be able to put your helmet in another guy's chest. That's what we should
Right?
really be looking at.
Well, there
yeah,
are some things when it comes to like the spearing
I've been speared before.
yeah. But you know what? That they ban that because it ends up hurting more the player that
The head going in.
That was it.
that forced the hit. And we were talking about this before the show. I don't remember who it was, but it was years ago, Buffalo Bills on a kickoff, and he speared somebody and broke his neck, and it paralyzed him. It ended his career, messed his life up for that kind of a tackle. I get that kind of stuff, but I don't want to see guys get hurt, but it's just going to be, how do you tackle somebody effectively,
Well,
the right way?
I think that's the other part of it too. Is like the hip drop tackle is not something. Whether you play Pop Warner, high school football, college, no coach comes to you and says, "All right, this is called a hip drop tackle, and in order to get your guy down, you're gonna grab him at the hip and you're just gonna drop." Nobody teaches that. It's just a natural thing to do that you don't have any other option, but this is the only way I can get this guy down, which is my job, and that's why I'm getting paid millions of dollars.
And what about, Brian, what about this? All these smaller corners going against these big tight ends,
Right.
or even big wide receivers or running backs or fullbacks that break through the line, and you got to bring these guys down.
Yep.
That's a really good point. You're right.
I
I mean,
I don't
I don't know. Are we playing tackle football? I mean, are the players complaining about this though? Because do we know that if the players are complaining, we as fans kind of be quiet because they're the ones out there risking it. So I mean, if the players don't really want this, I say it's silly. But if the players and the players union are saying, "Oh, let's ban this tackle," then okay, we got to just. But I just think you're playing football. You don't. I mean, what do you practice now 1 day a week because of the whole Players Association? Because you're babies, you make millions of dollars and you can't sweat an extra day of the week. But I don't know.
Well, you just said, so the Players Association says we do not want this rule to be implemented, but the owners are the ones that have implemented the rule, and they
So
voted.
basically, all the people that want it implemented are ones that have never stepped on any kind of field.
Well, they're looking at their big money players who they're giving guaranteed contracts to. They can't play the game because they're getting their legs broke.
Wow.
Well, that's the thing, though. From a player's standpoint, you got to look at this from a player's standpoint. If I'm a defensive player, and I honestly, I don't think that offensive players want this because it takes away from the game. But from a defensive player standpoint, now you're putting my money at risk that if I do make a tackle, I might get a $15,000 fine in the mail the following week because of me doing my job in which you paid me to do. But now my money's being taken away because a rule that we didn't want is now implemented, and it's making it harder. So, I don't know. There's so many different sides to this coin. Usually, a coin only has two sides. This coin is a trapezoid. I don't know how many sides. I don't know how many sides a trapezoid has.
A lot.
But it's more than two. I think.
It's a dodecahedron.
Yeah.
It's got 12 sides.
Yeah. Anyways,